They say a man is assayed by the company he keeps. And in this series of interviews, we intend to ascend into the flame-wreathed heights of preeminence in the Great Designers series.
So this is very exciting. We're standing in an industrial corridor with peeling paint. It's very East German, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
And I'm here with famous, nay, godlike board game artist, the man behind Agricola, Le Havre, Orléans, the very famous Klemens Franz. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, hello.
So we're here at BerlinCon, and so I just want to start by asking you, what's your history as an artist in general, not just board games, but as an artist?
Well, I went to an art school in Austria for sculpturing. So the graphic design and illustrations aren't my main education. And after the school, I had enough of art and art people and was saturated. And I did something completely different in the field of IT, but drifted a little bit into the area of multimedia stuff, where I worked as an assistant, and the art never left me. So I always did design own prototypes. And handed them over to publishers, and they were always like, wow, they look great, but the games need work, but the illustrations are fine. And that's how I stumbled into this area.
So you designed games as well originally?
Yeah, that's where I started, and I think it even was a good starting point to understand how games work before thinking of how they should look. So it's essential for someone illustrating or doing graphic work for board games to know how the underlying structures do work, do interact, and how it has to look so players can easily access all the different aspects of the game.
Because I guess, as opposed to just painting a picture, this is art that has a use. People need to be able to compute it and use it for something, right?
Yes. I'm not sure if we should call board games illustrations art. That's something we could discuss about, but there is a functionality that has to be there, and it has to come first. Functionality before aesthetics and design.
So, what was the first professional game that you illustrated?
That was Agricola.
It was Agricola?
Yeah.
It's a hell of a first game to do.
Absolutely. Looking back, I never would have done the game if I knew back then what I know now regarding the whole process, the amount of cards, the things we did wrong, the mistakes I made, but it was a great piece of work to start. It was not like going slowly, diving slowly into the topic. It was more like jumping into it with the whole body.
Feet first, yeah. So how did you actually get the Agricola gig?
The publisher Lookout Games, they did a little card game the year before, and they opened a competition. And it was a game with dragons, and I drew one huge blue dragon. And just before sending it, my wife told me, "You have this little cute dragon you drew some years ago, and send them as well." I sent both dragons, and the little green one won, and the big blue one I worked for 4 or 5 days on is not in the game.
So was the big blue one more realistic and scary?
No, it was comic style as well. But the little green one was a quick drawing. It had charm that they were looking for, because this illustration competition was somehow a way to look for new artists that might be able to draw the 360 cards that were in the game without completely destroying the budget.
And so you did Agricola, and Agricola was a huge success. Did that give you then the entrance to do it as a career?
Absolutely. It was a game that I could show the publishers, and they didn't know my name, but they knew the game. So it opened a lot of doors, but I had to go through them. It wasn't just like everybody was calling me to our games. No, absolutely not. So for the following 2 or 3 years, I went to all the fairs and I talked to the publishers, showed them what I did. And it's always good to have published games. There are great illustrators out there, amazing illustrators out there, but it's so hard to get the foot into the door.
And so you have a definite style. It's very recognizable. How long did it take you to develop that style, or is it just the natural way you draw?
Yes, it's a natural way I draw. I can't do it better. It's a little bit. It's probably a little bit childish. It's not realistic. And when looking into, at other artists or on the internet, on artist pages, I'm always amazed what they can do, and I'm always asking me, why do people like the things I do? And I think it's exactly that it's a little bit, it's not too complicated. It's clear to understand. It gives them a good feeling. They're not intimidated by the art.
It's welcoming. There's a German word that describes it perfectly, which is gemütlich.
Yes. that someone wrote that in an interview I gave. That was you. And I had to say, yeah, that's absolutely correct.
But there's something that invites you in. So up until this point, what's been the biggest challenge? The game that's been the hardest to do for you?
I think the most hours I worked on Le Havre.
Yeah.
Because the way the cards are done with the motif and the silhouette of the city in the background, I had to create the whole print sheet myself. I didn't create single cards, but I had to create the whole print sheet, and it was really time consuming. There are games that take a long time. For example, now in Essen there should be published a game at Piatnik or from the publisher Piatnik, and it took us nearly 2 years to finish the game. It's not a complicated game, but it was really hard to find the right direction and the right amount of information to give the players.
And I don't want you to pick a favourite child, but I'm going to ask you to pick a favourite child. Which is the game you've been most satisfied with that you've done? That you've come away and thought, that's exactly what I love?
I'd like to name 2 or 3. No, the Isle of Skye I did last year. That was just a game that went along really well. Port Royal, which I did in about 1 week.
Wow.
But the same, I had complete freedom for the Spielemuseum in Vienna. And one that flew a little bit under the radar was Pergamon from Eggert Spiele, which is a nice complete package in terms of the visual style and how all the things work together.
So can you tell us what you're working on now, what's coming in the future?
Well, what I can tell is that I'm mostly working for Lookout, and there we have in Essen the upcoming 5 and 6 player expansion for the Agricola game. Right now, being finished at the production company is the Agricola family game. It's not the family game from the old edition, it's a complete new interpretation of the game. We're working on colonists for Lookout Games, which is a first time game from Tim Puls, and it's an epic development game. And besides that, there is Turia from Huta, which is done by Inka and Markus Brandt and Michael Rieneck. So that's a game I know for about 3 years now. We were thinking about doing it at Lookout, and then it moved along to another publisher, and I was really glad that they asked me to stay on the project.
Cool. So, go back in history, you started off designing games. Are we going to see a Klemens Franz designed board game anytime soon?
There are already some games, kids games. I think 4 or 5 months ago, a game at Piatnik came out, a kids game. But the thing is that I only have time to develop games when publishers ask me to. Mm-hmm. So Piatnik asked me to do it, and then I did it, because I think 3 years ago we did for the Carrera racing cars 3 games, and the kids games. Kids game was nominated for the Kinderspiel des Jahres, and that opened some other doors. Yeah. But I don't have the time to work on the prototypes I have in my desk.
So one final question. Mm-hmm. All of those potential budding board game illustrators out there, mm-hmm. what's one piece of advice you'd give them?
If you're not completely into board gaming, don't go there.
Cool. Well, Klemens Franz, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.